I've seen some entitled people in my day, but this HOA president actually had the nerve to threaten me with a $10,000 fine and forced removal of my beehives because they were an unsanitary nuisance and health hazard. Picture this level of insanity. I'm in my backyard on a beautiful spring morning in suburban Cobb County, Georgia, tending to my 6 Langstroth hives, perfectly placed behind a 6-foot privacy fence, away from property lines with a water source so the bees don't bother neighbors. The air smells like fresh honey and blooming clover, when suddenly Evelyn Hargrove, think every nightmare HOA president rolled into one Botoxed designer purse-carrying package, comes storming through my gate like she's leading a SWAT team. She marches right up to my hives in her white capris and heels that sink into the grass, points a manicured finger and declares, "These disgusting insects are a violation of community standards and a public health threat. You'll remove them immediately or face a $10,000 fine and daily penalties until compliance." When I calmly explained that my setup is fully permitted, registered with the state, and protected under Georgia law, she whipped out her phone and threatened to call code enforcement, animal control, and the health department herself. "I know people," she sneered. "These bees are gone by next week." The sweet smell of honey mixed with pure entitlement was thick in the air. Here's what made her threats the dumbest mistake of her entire privileged life. She had absolutely no idea who she was really talking to. Let me introduce myself properly. My name's Elias Grant, 51 years old, widowed, 2 grown daughters who live out of state. I drive a county-issued white Ford F-150 with the Cobb County Environmental Health logo on the doors. Nothing flashy about me. Khaki pants, polo shirt, steel-toe boots scarred from years of inspections. By day, I'm the senior environmental health specialist for Cobb County, basically the guy who shuts down restaurants for roaches, inspects septic systems, investigates nuisance complaints, and yes, oversees apiary sanitation and public health risks from animals, insects, and everything in between. People call me the county health inspector, the one who can red tag a business or cite someone for conditions that actually endanger public health. But on weekends and evenings, I'm just Eli, the quiet guy in Magnolia Trace subdivision who keeps bees in his backyard as therapy after losing my wife Laura to breast cancer 3 years ago. The gentle hum of the hives became my meditation, my connection to something alive and purposeful. Harvesting honey for neighbors, teaching kids about pollination, it healed parts of me that grief had broken. Magnolia Trace is a nice 250-home neighborhood northwest of Atlanta. Curved streets, brick accents, pools, tennis courts. When I bought here in 2021, the HOA was run by reasonable folks, a retired engineer as president, rules that made sense: mow your lawn, no commercial vehicles parked overnight, pay dues on time. Then came Hurricane Evelyn. Evelyn Hargrove moved in from Buckhead with her plastic surgeon husband and 2 teenage sons driving matching BMWs. Within 6 months, she'd maneuvered onto the board, then president, on a platform of elevating property values and maintaining elite standards. Translation, turning our comfortable suburb into her personal kingdom where anything not perfectly manicured was a threat. She started with paint colors, then basketball hoops, then vegetable gardens, inconsistent with architectural guidelines, fines for holiday lights left up past January 15th, violation letters for kids' chalk drawings on sidewalks. But her real crusade was against anything she deemed rural or unsanitary. Which brings us to my bees. I installed my first 2 hives in spring 2023, did everything by the book, registered with Georgia Department of Agriculture, followed best management practices, got written approval from immediate neighbors who love the free honey, screened the hives from view with landscaping, even had my own department colleague do an informal courtesy inspection, passed with flying colors. For a year, 0 complaints. Kids loved watching the bees from a safe distance. Neighbors asked for honey. One elderly lady said the humming helped her sleep. Then Evelyn discovered them. It started with a courtesy notice in June 2024. Unapproved livestock detected. Remove immediately or face $200 daily fines. I responded politely with documentation. Georgia Code Section 2-14-41.1 prohibiting local restrictions on honeybees. My state registration, sanitation compliance reports. She escalated. Emergency board meeting called. PowerPoint presentation titled Public Health Crisis, Illegal Apiary Threatening Community Safety. Photos of my hives with red arrows labeled Disease Vector Risk, Allergen Hazard, Potential Africanized Bee Infestation. She quoted outdated ordinances, claimed bees lowered property values by 15%, and even brought expert testimony from her cousin's pest control company recommending immediate extermination. The room smelled of stale coffee and fear as she demanded a special assessment, $10,000 fine, plus forced removal by licensed exterminator at my expense. I raised my hand. Before voting, perhaps review Georgia state law? Evelyn cut me off. State law doesn't supersede our covenants. This is private property governed by HOA rules. That's when I laid out my first folder. Official state apiary registration, sanitation compliance reports, neighbor testimonials, lab results from poisoned hives. The vote was tabled pending further review. I thought education had worked. Big mistake. Entitled people don't learn. They double down. 2 weeks later, anonymous complaints flooded my own department. Massive bee infestation causing allergic reactions, swarming attacks on children, unsanitary conditions breeding disease. I recognized the pattern immediately. Same phrasing as Evelyn's emails. As the inspector assigned to investigate, county policy routes complaints geographically, I had to recuse myself. My supervisor reassigned it to Tamara Jones. Tamara inspected, found 0 violations, actually complimented my setup as model compliance. Report closed, unfounded. But Evelyn wasn't done. She hired a private investigator, yes, really, to document ongoing health threats. Guy in cheap suit lurking in bushes taking photos of my hives. I waved, he fled. Then came the social media campaign. Private neighborhood Facebook posts from concerned Magnolia Mom, photos of my backyard zoomed in dramatically, warnings about killer bees, claims children couldn't play outside, fake accounts multiplying the message. My daughters saw it. Dad, people think you're running some dangerous operation. That's when I went from defensive to investigative. As a health inspector, I know how to follow paper trails. Started with public records requests for HOA financials. Georgia law requires transparency. What I found made my blood run cold. Since Evelyn took over, landscaping contract, $18,000 annually to Premier Lawn Solutions, owned by Evelyn's brother-in-law. Comparable bids, $9,000 max. Pool maintenance, $12,000 to Crystal Clear Pools, her nephew's new company. Previous vendor, $6,000. Legal fees, $22,000 to Hargrove & Associates, her sister-in-law's firm. Community Enhancement Consulting, $15,000 paid to Evelyn's personal LLC. Total since January 2023, $68,000 steered to family members with 0 competitive bidding, 0 disclosure of conflicts. Classic embezzlement through conflict of interest. Every fine, every special assessment proposal. It wasn't about standards. It was about generating revenue to funnel to her family. My bees? Just the latest threat to her scheme. A neighbor who understood sanitation laws and might look too closely at where dues were going. I built the file methodically. Contracts, bank records, meeting minutes where she voted on her own relatives' proposals. Then the harassment turned criminal. August 2024, someone poisoned 2 hives overnight, thousands of bees dead. Lab tests confirmed pesticide not approved for residential use. Security camera caught a figure in hoodie, build matched Evelyn's older son. Another night, hives vandalized, frames smashed. I filed police reports. Detective took it seriously. Agricultural terrorism is a felony in Georgia. But Evelyn's masterstroke came in September. Emergency special assessment mailed to every homeowner, $500 per household for immediate apiary hazard removal and community sanitation remediation. Total $125,000, conveniently covering her family's latest contracts. Meeting scheduled for October 15th. That's when I decided, no more defense. Time for the reveal. October 15th arrived crisp and clear. Community clubhouse packed, 150 residents cramed in folding chairs smelling of coffee and outrage. Evelyn at the podium in pearl necklace and power suit with laser pointer ready. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we address the most serious threat to our community's health and property values in Magnolia Trace history. Slide 1. Dramatic photo of my hive.